Hey, how is everyone? How's the audio? Sounds pretty good, but you are not used to me going live, so I'll be talking to myself for a little while. Maybe I'll take that time and share this to the Discord. Zero viewers. That's what happens when you don't do a live for a while. All right. Zed Run. In general. Oh, we do have viewers. It's just saying no viewers. Jamie's here. Captain Ego, Todd, Andrew, Martin, Emplum, Shags. How is everyone? It was saying no viewers, but you're all there. You're all there. Hi from Chicago, the home of my favourite football team, the Chicago Bears. Love the Bears. All right. All right. We've had some big news, haven't we? We've had a lot of big news, and I've been first live stream, Mark. All right, I hope you're all subs. Do you all know about the giveaway? We're giving away a Genesis Z8 filly in my favourite colour, super rare Gainsborough. We're giving one of those away. It's probably worth around or just over 2,000 US dollars. And if you have a look in the description below, have a look in the video description, you'll find a link to the giveaway video. Bears fan, yes, MJ, big Bears fan, have been for many, many years. I back here in our own Australian Football League, there was a team called the Bears. So I was a huge fan of those and progressed over, and now a massive fan of the NFL. Love the NFL, particularly my Bears. Okay, so make sure you jump over, check out that link and sign up for that giveaway. But there's been some massive Zed news, absolutely massive Zed news. We had the PlayUp announcement where PlayUp looked to be a sports betting type corporation, and they're going to be injecting, I think it was $30 million worth of PlayUp tokens into the Zed ecosystem via the racing platform. So that's going to be interesting. We're not exactly sure, or I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, but 30 million's a lot of money to be injecting into the Zed system for sure. Shags, the red and black North Sydney Bears, you betcha, they're the ones. They are the ones, not around anymore, so passionately follow the Chicago Bears instead. All right. So yeah, the PlayUp announcement was huge. 30 million, that's a lot of money to be injecting into the Zed ecosystem. And us as players are going to get, a sharing in that, I assume. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. And then, of course, Zed announced a $20 million investment into the company itself, Virtually Human Studios, which are the makers of Zed Run, and they got a $20 million investment. Now, that is really, really important because it gives Zed a huge runway and huge security into the future to really launch this game, many, many years in advance. So that's massive. They're now doing heaps of hiring, targeting some of the best developers and some of the best corporate managers in the world to help Zed Run reach its full potential. So that's massive as well. And then, of course, the one I wanted to talk about was the racing update. All right, let's switch over and have a look at the racing update. This one here, we're over at the Zed community, the blog site. Everything 3000. Do I recommend buying a colt, stallion, mare, filly, blah-de-blah? It's all in the videos. If you have a look at the beginner series of videos, that will outline. You know, you need to arm yourself with this knowledge. You can't rely on me or anyone else to give you that knowledge because your vision for what's important in the game is likely to be different to mine. And I'm not sure when the next drop is going to be. I wouldn't be relying on that as my entry into the game. I would be arming myself with as much knowledge as possible and then finding bargains on OpenSea would be what I would be doing. Okay, big announcement a couple of days ago. More races, so we got more $2.50 races coming. That's awesome. So because $2.50 is like the new free races. When they pop up, it's like super hard to get into. So there's going to be more of those to make it easier to get into. That will be awesome. Races are shortly going to be commencing 5 minutes after the race is full. That will be epic. Just that instant gratification and the ability, which is really important in my opinion, to on a Friday night, sit down with your 5 or 6 horses or 1 or 2 horses, however many horses you have, and have a racing session of an hour or 2 and get those races racing instantly. That will be incredible and huge for the game. Fatigue is coming soon. That's going to be incredible for the game as well. We'll go into more detail as we get down the post here. Improved competition and improved racing classes. You know, the interesting thing with all of this is some of these decisions and directions are not going to be exactly what I hope for. But the beautiful thing about Zed is it's kind of a fluid system whereby if it's not perfect, they will change it and make it absolutely optimized for the benefit of the game as they continue to move forward. They've got some of the best experts and best gaming experts coming onto the team, and they're just going to continually improve this and just hopefully dominate this particular sort of racing space. Odds are being removed. I'm a huge fan of, well, that's probably not worded correctly. The odds are being replaced. So in the past, the odds were based on a 1,000 race simulation, we believe. And that meant that you could look into the future, essentially 1,000 races, and see how strong your horse was. And you would know how strong your horse was in as little time as maybe 1, 2 or 3 races. You could really tell if that horse was going to be something special or a potential donkey. Now the new odds system, I believe, is going to be a history-based odds system, which is based on probably breed types and Z numbers and also early race results, maybe also based on some speed times and these types of things as well. Okay. So that will be really interesting. So the odds are going to be much more vague, much like they are in the real world racing system, you know, real life racing where the odds are just a guesstimation. I mean, the old odds system was somewhat of a guesstimation as well, but the fact that you could see 1,000 races into the future, and if your horse got $45 odds, that was relatively accurate to tell you that this horse is no good. Now, if your horse previously was going to get those $45 odds and it comes out and it wins 3 of its first 5, and we see this with a lot of horses that are 20 or 30 to 1, but they have a flying start. Now it will be up to us, the trainers, and up to the buyers in the market to decide, oh, is this the next monster, or is it a bit of a pretender? And that adds so much more mystery and gameplay to the entire system. This is going to be the biggest change, I believe, to Zed Run and the biggest improvement. New leaderboards, a new rating system. This is both a stable rating system and a horse rating system. That is going to really gamify the Zed Run ecosystem and encourage stables like myself, which have been a little bit dormant, to really get back involved and try and, you know, place ourselves up at the top of those leaderboards. Just do a little quick double check. Scott says, Adam, I've noticed you are bidding on low Z Genesis. Have recent events made you more bullish? Obviously, none of what I say is financial advice. Take it with a grain of salt and don't invest your money based on what I say. But I think absolutely the $20 million investment, which gives Zed a lot of security moving forward and a lot of power in the recruitment market, is going to be huge. They're going to get the first jump on building a serious team. Okay, there's a lot of projects that are going to come up in the next, or already have come up in the last 3 months, and there's going to be more come up in the next 6 to 12 months. But when they hit this serious investment level and they get their own $10 or $20 million, if they are lucky enough to get to that level, it's going to be harder to recruit the top people in the field. And Zed are getting that first mover advantage, particularly on that. And the fact that they have that $20 million to pay the bills for X amount of time certainly gives me a lot more confidence in what's going on. I don't really know about Hawker's estimated win projection that much, Mark. No more tanking in higher classes. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that anyway. I think it's silly, and I think Zed doing that is actually doing a favour to the tankers, because I believe that tanking costs you more money than what you would have potentially made with that horse in breeding. I heard a rumour that NASCAR have partnered with Zed. That is absolutely phenomenal. Has that been confirmed? Has that been confirmed, M Plum? That is massive if that's the case. I'm not sure about Swiss Army Knife and the value. Dan, do I think there is an advantage to holding an unraced Genesis? I think there's a lot less risk, Dan, in racing horses after the odds are gone, because it's more results based. So if you get a horse that starts winning a few, then it's going to look like a pretty good horse. And I've had a lot of Genesis that win 2 or 3 of their first 5, but I know they're not very good because they're getting 20, $15, $18, $20 odds consistently. So it's going to be interesting. But I've had the flip side as well, where I've had a $5, $6 odds horse that wins nothing in its first 15. And that's what I love. I love the fact that people, including myself, are going to write off a horse and say, well, this horse hasn't won anything in its first 15 races, and then going to sell that on OpenSea. And someone with a real savvy eye, or a little bit of deeper information on how this game works, will be able to see that and say, well, the times and the standard deviation of times suggest this horse might have something special and just be a slow starter, and there might be other key tells as well. And then you can pick up these slow starting horses that have 15 races no wins or 20 races no wins, and they might go on a run and be a 15 or 20% winner. That's going to really add to the gameplay by adding more mystery, making it not as obvious to see what's a good horse and what's a bad horse. And then you have to decide, using all the tools at your disposal, whether that be speeds, whether that be visual tells on the 3D racing animation. It's really going to open up the game. Previous to this, it was too easy because you just looked at the odds. And if you knew how the odds work, it was very obvious if the horses were good or bad. Oh wow, it got mentioned on Yahoo Sports about NASCAR. That is massive. That's massive. That's going to bring an entire new audience to Zed. And did you see that a super rare Zed Run in Stronghold Ivory sold for 77 Ethereum the other day? I mean, this could be just the start. Exactly. A quick trigger to sell because you didn't win the first, a race in your first 15 could cost you a Pinkman or a Steph Curry or a Ducky Mallon. These horses tend to go on 20 race losing streaks. I just had Insane Him, one of the greatest Z2, and I think you'll probably agree if you look at his stats, one of the greatest Z2 males getting around. And he just went over 20. It was like 24 or 26 races in a row without a win. Now, if that was his first 24 or 26 races, and we have no odds, and we're not really sure about what we should be looking at other than results, sell that horse cheap, and he goes on to be one of the greatest Z2s ever produced. You just don't know. Airdrop. PBR, how you doing? All right, let's get back into what we were talking about over here. Okay, so more races, more $2.50 races, brilliant, because they're filling up so quickly and we can squeeze more in with the 5 minute, as we said. Who wants to wait 20 hours? No one. We want instant gratification. We are the instant gratification generation. Well, I'm not, I'm a bit older. But I love instant gratification, and I love, look, in this kind of racing scenario, you want to sit down on a Friday night or whatever night of the week you have that time, sit down, have a beer, have a cup of tea, whatever, and put your horses into 10 races and then sit back and watch. You don't want to put them in and have to pre-plan that I've got to put them in on Thursday morning so that I can watch them on Friday night. No, let's get them all done quick as possible. It's great for streamers as well. You know, streaming to Twitch or streaming to YouTube. I noticed a few people are like, I wish there was more Zed streamers. Well, there will be once there's a 5 minute wait time, because people like to stream and watch their own horses generally. And you can't really do that with a 20-hour wait because it requires too much pre-planning. So no more queues, 5 minute wait time. That's going to be massive, absolutely massive in my opinion. Fatigue is coming. I'll come back to your questions in a minute for sure. So fatigue, I'm not exactly sure of the details of how this is going to work, but I believe that this fatigue graphic here, I don't know whether, you know, when we're almost to the top, if that means the horse is relatively unaffected and it doesn't get affected till the fatigue graphic is all the way worn out, or if we start to see a percentage of fatigue coming in from the top. I also know that some horses will be able to race at their optimum level for a little bit longer. Let's assume that some horses might be affected after 1 or 2 races, but other horses might be affected after 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 races. And then I also believe, well, yeah, there's all sorts of variables there, and so there should be, because, you know, there's other variables in, you know, speed factors and, you know, distance factors. So it makes sense that fatigue is a variable factor that can be bred into future generation horses. So it might be something that some of these donkeys have. They have a high fatigue threshold, all right? Because the way I see Zed currently is you've got, you know, when you're playing a game and you've got all these attributes as sort of horizontal bars from 0 to 100%. You know, if you're playing Minecraft, you've got your energy and your hunger levels, for example. Well, in Zed Run, I'm sure they have similar horizontal bars, and I've heard we're getting a dashboard shortly that might start to display some of those traits as a 0 to 100% graphic. Now, I imagine we've already got, well, I know we've already got distance and a few other preferences, but we might see that there's a breeding trait. We might see that we've heard there's incoming weather traits and incoming location strength traits, and obviously incoming fatigue traits. And what I assume is when Zed made, you know, minted these horses, they might have 10 or 20 free slots to add different traits. Okay, so fatigue is coming in and taking one of those slots, weather is coming in, or weather and track conditions is coming in to take another one of those slots. And, you know, breeding, you might have horses that are better at breeding or passing on their genetics than other horses. It certainly looks that way. This is all going to be a game of discovery as we move through, which is just hugely exciting. And again, we don't know. There could be, you know, donkeys could be very valuable in the future for either breeding, you know, breeding in special traits. There might be certain traits that are quite rare to have at 100% that don't necessarily relate to racing. So you could have a 100% breeding trait or a 100% strong fatigue trait, but your horse is terrible, but breeding that with a strong racer could produce excellent offspring. It's really, really exciting. It's really exciting for picking up cheap horses that are, no one loves at the moment. Could these horses have some of these new traits coming in where they're particularly strong? It's possible. All right, a couple of questions whilst we move on to the next bit. Dan says, if odds information is generated to determine the winner, could be some leaks in the dev community. Oh, with the old odds information. Yeah, who knows, Dan? Well, that's potentially an issue, but maybe they can completely delete that old algo or something or other. I don't know. I don't believe devs can play anyway now. I think that was a new rule that came in about 3 or 4 months ago from memory. I could be wrong. Interesting question, Mark. With the price of ETH spiking, do you think the price of horses will stay pegged to ETH or USD? It tends to fluctuate in between the two. It's not directly correlated to ETH and it's not directly correlated to USD. As ETH soars, generally the horses don't exactly keep up, but they do go up. And as ETH falls, they generally don't fall as hard, and they maintain a bit more value in relation to their USD. So it's interesting though, but I am seeing, and again, absolutely not financial advice, but we are seeing some strength in the crypto market after 2 or 3 months of sideways and downwards movement. And we are also seeing some real strength coming into the top end NFTs. If you have seen what the Bored Apes have been doing in the last few days, there's a lot of money coming for those desirable NFTs. And we haven't seen the second, rocket to the moon for Zed Run yet. We saw one about, I guess, at the beginning of the year when we went from 2,000 users up to 60,000 users in about a month. And we really saw a spike in the prices, but we haven't seen tier 2 yet. What is going to generate that? I really think we probably need some more users. We probably need to go from 60,000 out to 200,000, much like Axie Infinity has done. Now to do that, I'm not sure. We might need, Axie Infinity has all those scholarships, which is really boosting their numbers. Can Zed Run introduce a scholarship scenario where we can isolate off different accounts and have external players log in and only have the ability to race our horses without having the ability to transfer or breed or do anything, transfer those horses out of the account? That could be interesting and really add another level to the gaming and expansion as well. Okay. Axie Infinity, I've been having a little look at that recently as well. It's been around, it's probably the first established game on the blockchain. It's got about 300,000 players currently, and it's a really interesting ecosystem. A relatively basic game, but very addictive. Shag's strategy over instant gratification, hard work and research will pay off 100%. The more time you spend researching how this game works, potentially the better off you will be and the more knowledge you will have to buy the right horses that will pay off. Now, when I'm buying a horse, I'm always trying to find a horse that I believe can pay back my original investment in 3 to 6 months. I need to buy horses that I can see the pathway to paying back in 3 to 6 months. Okay, if you can find the pathway and find those horses that you think will do the same, I think that's not a bad strategy. Again, not financial advice. Tim says, have there been any decent stats to suggest that a colt's filly's racing is impacted after breeding? No, I don't believe so. I don't believe that is the case from what I've heard. Could be proven wrong. Happens quite regularly. M Plum, seen I pulled Wall Street from OpenSea. Wall Street hasn't been on OpenSea for ever. I pulled Nervous Demonstration off, which is a Z1 we had listed for 19 ETH, because I believe there could be a surge coming. Z1 horse in that image, what do you... No, I didn't notice the Z11 Gen horse in that image. I don't know what you're talking about there. Stealth. Eric asks, what do I think would be a preferred choice? Unraced Butte Gen Colt at 0.65 or B1 Colt and one filly. What's a B1 Colt? Okay, let me know what a B1 Colt is and I'll do my best. I haven't heard of De Cray, Martin. I don't think there's too much issues with competitors coming in for Zed. I think Zed's got a significant first mover advantage at the moment. Does that guarantee Zed a future? No, absolutely it doesn't, but I think we're in pretty good hands. I'm pretty confident at this point. Manny, am I saying that fatigue could add value to cheap horses for sale on OpenSea? It's possible. It's possible, but I think there are many other factors that could add value to those cheap horses as well, particularly Genesis. You know, we're seeing a lot of donkey Genesis that have the capability of producing absolute monster horses. Now, is that more pure luck and just the numbers playing out, or is there some sort of underlying breeding trait that gives some horses a breeding advantage over others? Now, if you imagine when they produce a Genesis horse, let's compare just Z1s to Z1s, for example. And let's imagine they had 10 different trait boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And within those trait boxes, we currently know that speed is a factor and distance preference is a factor, and maybe staying power or sprint power is a factor, you know, these kind of different things. So that might take up, and we know that weather preference is coming and gait preference is coming and maybe location preference is coming. So that maybe takes up 5 of those 10 boxes. Now, if breeding preference or breeding ability or breeding strength or the ability to pass on or consolidate might be a better word. So if you've got a really great breeding mare, does she have the ability to sort of consolidate the best genes from the 2 horses into one offspring? Is that possible? Maybe. And if you then think about that, you know, you've got some of these great horses running around, like my own horse, like Breathless Edge, who has stacked racing ability, so very good racing ability across multiple distances. So let's suggest that his racing ability might be somewhere near the highest for a Z1, you know, 80, 90% maybe. Does that mean that over those 10 trait boxes that we've got, that some of the other trait boxes might be more on the low side? Let's assume that all Z1s maybe start with a certain amount of trait percentages that they can allocate to all these different trait boxes. Let's assume they all start out relatively equal. So then you've got a horse that has really highly stacked racing ability. Does that mean that he might not be the best breeder? Well, potentially that could be the case. But then if you flip that over, does that mean that the horses that don't have the stacked racing genetics might be strong in some other aspects? Maybe. It is certainly a possibility. A couple more questions and we'll get back into it. Make sure you hit the like button. Please, please, please hit the entry fee. Oh, the fatigue image, the Z11 horse. Oh, is there any significance to that? I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, Genesis Z11's right. Sorry, yeah. It's not correct, is it? Because the Genesis don't go to 11s. Right. No big deal. Is the breeding for supercoats viable long term? I don't know. They need to add something special to supercoats, like visibly different. If they don't, I don't see a great deal of value. If they do, I see a value increase. Nicholas, we won't be doing horse valuations or whatnot today. We'll do that another day. Okay, similar overall concept, except they have ownership of hippodromes, whatever that is. I'll have a look into it. De race. All right. Yeah, what Doofy's doing with Hamish and Andy is incredible. It's really given the Australian numbers a boost, I think. We're seeing a lot of Aussies getting into Zed Run, and I think it's probably because of that. It says on the help on Zed Run that coat colour doesn't matter when racing, but if a coat has a personality, surely coats will affect a horse when racing. I don't think so. Until I hear the dev team say that coats matter, they've said that it doesn't matter too many times to really rate that as something, I think. Dan, well, no. Dan says, do I think that races today with high odds history will forever be damaged? Nope. Nope. I think if they start winning some races in particular conditions and they win consistently over 50 or 100 races, then the whole thing swings. And if they start breeding and producing lots of great offspring, then maybe they're great breeders. I mean, we're not really deep enough into any of these aspects. You've got to get deeper and re-establish those patterns to build the confidence in the buyer's market. You can't just say, well, the odds are gone, my 45 to 1 horse is great now. No, you've got to, over 50 or 100 races, prove that it can be great at a particular strength or discipline or, you know, distance or whatever that happens to be. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Most players are located. Where do I think most players are located, Jason? In the USA, United States for sure. Oh, Nicholas, I'm not going to give you my good horse names away. No way. Keep them up in here for me. I was surprised the other day. I had a midnight black horse and I thought, Charcoal, that's a cool name, but it's got to be taken. And boom, I got Charcoal. That was cool. Stoked with that. Eric meant preferred choice of one unraced Butte Gen versus one colt and one filly Butte Gen. One unraced Butte Gen versus one colt and one filly Butte Gen. It's a total, but odds. Oh, but they both got 25 odds. All horses same colour. I don't know, Eric. You need to figure out what your vision and value ratios for this game are and then buy according to that. Can you see a way of paying back those horses, whichever decision you make, within 3 to 6 months? That's what I'd be aiming for. Dave, again, same to you. Dave asks, would I agree that now is the time to pick up proven races before the odds disappear? Potentially. If you can see a way for them being cheap now and potentially paying them back in 3 to 6 months, then go for it. It's very hard to pay back. Well, for me, from what I've seen, it's very hard to pay back the money allocated when buying a horse through racing alone. Most of my payback scenarios when I'm buying new horses come from what's the value of breeding this particular horse. 11.4 horses, not a glue farmer. That's pretty good. 40 to 1 is a glue farmer or a glue factory destined horse. No, 11s, once these new traits and fatigue come in, I think 11s is competitive. What do I think of the female inflation? Is there a female inflation right now? I think for newbies, like building a stable, buying a filly is good. And also fillies, obviously fillies only have the ability to produce one offspring versus the 3 from studs, and the current ecosystem is 3 to, within the ecosystem, the horse males to female ratio is roughly 50-50. So you're always going to require more females to account for the males that you've got to produce that optimum level of offspring. But, so while females may always be slightly more expensive, I think that will probably be the case on average, there is also a very interesting scenario looming because a lot of those female exclusive and elites are wanting to breed with Genesis males to hold the offspring at the exclusive or elite level. And there's a reason for that, a financial reason, because if you've got an exclusive mare, you want to hold the offspring at exclusive because exclusives are generally more expensive to sell than elites. So there's an incentive to breed that exclusive mare with a Genesis Genesis stud. And similar with the elite level, you want to hold them at elite because elites sell for more than, what's the next level down? Cross. Okay, so elite offspring sell for more than cross, so there's also a financial incentive to breed those mares, exclusive and elites, with Genesis males. Now there'll only ever be 19,000 Genesis males in the entire ecosystem, of which probably only currently, I don't have these figures, but I'm guessing maybe 5,000 to 10,000 of them enter the stud in any one month, maybe even less than that. So it doesn't take many exclusive and elite mares that want to breed with a Genesis before we get a significant Genesis stud shortage in the stud farm. That's really interesting to me. How many have been released? I think about 25,000, 28,000 Genesis have been released. There's about 10,000 left from memory. Jasper, yeah, I would tend to agree. Buying a male Genesis is the best. I wouldn't go as far to say is the best investment you can make. But it's an interesting investment, not financial advice, but purely based on the fact that there is a financial incentive for all exclusive and all elite females to breed with Genesis, and there'll only ever be 19,000 Genesis males to take up that demand. So it only takes 19,000 elite and exclusive mares to suck up all that demand. And I don't know where we're at now. We must be already at nearly, 10,000 of those already. So that's super interesting. Oh, you only have to watch my videos, Jasper, back in history, and I've been talking about this for nearly 12 months. This interesting thing between, the exclusive breeding and elite breeding, and the fact that the males can hold, and the fact that I am very bullish on the males. And I've been recently buying some more males. Yeah, it's interesting. Not financial advice, but yeah, have a think about how that's going to react. Jesper here says, you got 1 in 19,000 male Genesis. What happens when we get to 500,000 horses in the ecosystem and there is, say, 50,000 exclusive and elite mares that want to breed with a Genesis because of that financial incentive? Now, the market will balance, because what will end up happening is there'll be so much demand for the Genesis that the Genesis prices in the stud barn will go up, okay? And then the financial incentive between exclusive, elite, and cross will be will be negated, because now the cost of breeding with a Genesis will be more than the benefit you get from producing an extra exclusive, and in which case you might decide to breed that exclusive mare with another exclusive stud, for example, and don't worry about producing exclusives and produce elites instead. So there is a limit to that. The market will find that equilibrium, but it is interesting. It is very interesting that the demand for those Genesis is going to continue to increase. Well, it should. But in saying that, Zed might change that scenario. You know, they already changed the breeding when it went from males getting 7 offspring to 3 and females getting 3 offspring to 1. They could also change something fundamentally. You know, I don't think they would, but they could change something fundamentally. That's the risk. If you go out and buy a whole bag full of males and then they change the fact about that holding the exclusive and elite level and give the female some more power at some level, then it could completely change that ratio. As of the end of July, Trevor says there's 8,500 raced exclusive horses. Okay, and you've got to assume there's probably 5,000 elites. So there's already 14, 15, those numbers are wrong, aren't they? 13, 14,000 exclusive and elites. And then you've got the unraced ones. It's probably double that. You're probably getting close to 25,000 of those horses already in the ecosystem. Half of those are female. So we're probably already at, doing some rough numbers, 12,000-ish females in the ecosystem. And there wouldn't be that many males, Genesis, in the stud barn per month to accommodate that already, okay? And we're only, a few months into this sort of game. So that's super interesting. Was there anything else we need to talk about here? Classings and ratings. Okay, so there's a new class system coming. Basically, also when you race up classes, you won't lose points anymore, so that will stop tanking to a degree, which is great. Removing odds. Yeah, so the odds are basically going from the old 1,000 simulations to a new history-based odds. They are maintaining this little fire symbol. This will be the symbol that you want with your horse. It's sort of basically this little fire symbol tells you that, in the Griffin or in a paid race or whatever, that you're in the top 3 chances of this particular race. So that's pretty cool. So there's a replacement coming. New race events as well. So this is pretty cool. So there'll be races that are only for horses with a 0% win rate. All right. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that not open to horses that have just come out of the Griffin. Fingers crossed. Surely they can see that being an issue, because if that's the case, then basically all you end up getting is these brand new strong Griffin horses that happen not to win their first race, enter that one, and then we get this constant influx of actually really quite strong horses from the Griffin race entering the 0 win rate races and winning them. That's obviously a clear issue that I see within 30 seconds. Hopefully they identify that and make it that the 0 win rate races have to have a minimum of, say, 10 races. All right, because then, those strong Griffin horses that come out of their Griffin need to race 9 other races and miss out on winning all of those 10 races in total, including the Griffin, before you can enter that race. Because otherwise, as we breed new horses, you're just going to get all these strong Griffin horses come out of there, go into the 0 win rate races, and these are designed for the not so great horses to have a chance. And if that is the case, then, by allowing all these strong Griffins that happen to miss out on their first Griffin race to enter those races, in my opinion, is not a good idea. At least force them to race 10 races so we can see how strong they are first before allowing them to enter the donkey 0 win rate race. Okay, there's a big problem there if they allow horses to just straight up enter straight after the Griffin, because there's X amount of donkeys, but there's also how many are coming through the Griffin each day? Hundreds, okay? So, and only, you know, if there's say 200 coming through a Griffin, then only like, how many winners? You get about one in 10, say 20, so about 15 winners out of those 200. So there's going to be 185 horses with a 0 win rate after those Griffin, and a large percentage of those are going to be really good, and a large percentage of those are going to win all the 0 win rate races because there's going to be a constant supply of them. But by forcing them to race 5 or 10 races to really make sure that they are, you know, at least somewhat a bit of a donkey or at least a slow starter before they come in, then you slow down that process and give the donkeys a chance of getting a win. I like this, horses with less than 5%. So you could stay in that class for quite some time. If you've got a horse that's got a 0 win rate after 50 races, it's going to take a lot of wins to get you up to 5%. Leaderboards and new rating system. This will be a boost for the game aspect. The ELO, someone just mentioned that actually. ELO rating system calculates the relative skill levels of the racehorses so that the distribution of racehorses in the class systems are classified within their competitive range. I don't know how that ELO system is being designed, so I don't know a lot about that, but that sounds like a good thing. Because you're getting, the problem with the current system is you're getting a lot of Class 1 horses that are not really Class 1 horses, but they're very good at finishing 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So they very rarely lose points, but they keep slowly gaining points. So they can never come out of Class 1. So hopefully that's what the ELO rating system will help. It will breathe new life into some of these horses that are getting stuck in classes where they're not supposed to be. And that's a wrap, and I think that'll be a wrap for me too. Team, make sure you hit the like button for me. 49 viewers, it wasn't a bad return to live as far as numbers. I will keep doing a few more of these. Make sure, as I said, if you're still hanging around and you haven't already entered the Genesis Z8 Super Rare giveaway, have a look in the description for the details on that video. And then I've also got an offspring sale that launched 20 minutes ago. If you're not on the advance notice offspring email list, there is a link to that in the description as well. All right. Okay, take care guys. Have a good rest of the day and a good weekend coming up, and we will chat again shortly. Bye for now.